Foreign Secretary, what on earth are you up to over Brexit? 4,000-word articles, rows with statisticians, backseat driving. I mean, what are you up to?
Backseat. Let me very well. The article, I hope, speaks for itself. And as for backseat driving, honestly, there's one driver in this car, to use Amber's metaphor, which he's quite often uses, and quite rightly. It's Theresa. What I'm trying to do look at the piece. What I'm trying to do is sketch out what I think is the incredibly exciting landscape of the destination ahead, and that's where Theresa.
But it's a different destination to many of your colleagues. Let's be clear. What kind of Brexit transition do you want? How long should that transition be? And what sort of money should the British government pay to the European Union during that process?
Well, those questions obviously are for the government to decide. We don't want, as the Prime Minister has rightly said, we don't want to be paying into the EU after we leave. We certainly don't want to be paying in extortionate sums for access to the single market. They wouldn't pay for access to our market.
But not extortionate about how much?
But we will. What we will do, and I think everybody can see the logic of this. Insofar as we are on the hook for stuff in the short term that we've agreed to, that's fair enough. And I've never objected to that. On your point about the transition period and the length of the transition period, I think it's pretty important that it shouldn't be too long, and that people should have business should have a clear sense of where we're going and what it's going to be like at the end of it. And so that's really what I'm trying to sketch out. I'm trying to say that once you take back control of all these things, there are opportunities for the UK, and we're an incredible country, an incredible economy, and we should see.
If you do not get what you want on this transition, are you prepared to resign?
Well, I think if I may say, to be, I think you may be barking slightly up the wrong tree here, but the transition period, I can see the vital importance of having clarity and certainty for business. I think what all of us agree, what the Prime Minister agrees, is that it shouldn't be too long.
But other ministers say longer than you say. They're saying 2 or 3 years.
Well, if it
10 billion a year into EU coffers.
Well, again, let's not try and find rows where there really aren't rows. I perfectly understand that we have to honour our legal obligations. But what I'm trying to do is set out in advance of the Prime Minister's speech in Florence on Friday, because I was involved in that Brexit campaign quite a lot. People want to know where we're going, and I think that it's a good thing to have a bit of an opening drum roll about what this country can do.
Final question. Do you enjoy being Foreign Secretary?
Of course.
You're going to miss it?
When the cares of office, when the burden of office is lifted from my shoulders, I will of course look back with great pride on my time doing all sorts of things.